Joe Mays and J-Rap Show is brought to you in part by Mays Sandwich Shop, serving delicious hometown favorites to the West Lawn community since 1947. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Rap Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup.
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State holds!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl! Brady has his fifth! What a comeback!
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 243rd episode of the Joe Mays and J-Rap Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and, we've kind of been wading into the waters here a little bit, when it comes to football season, and the day is finally here. We have now fully had our opportunity to dive into football season because we no longer have to wait, and, we've kind of eased our way in. Some of the football started a couple weeks ago. Some of it started, this weekend, so it's that time of year. So, and I don't think you or I could be more happy about it.
No, we got underway. Football, real football that mattered kind of kicked off on September 1st. That was the first day of September, but the first Friday where high school football kicked off, which we got to experience with our other endeavor, the Bulldog Hour. Unfortunately, Wilson lost to rival Mifflin, first time in 7 tries, first time since the first game of 2011. They responded this week, though, and were able to win in week 2 over Springford 28-21. Well, then September 2nd, the first Saturday of the month, we saw Penn State play, and they beat down Akron 52-0, which we were loving. And then Thursday, we got the NFL season kicked off, and we'll talk about that Thursday game momentarily. And today, a majority of the remaining teams played. As of this moment, I think only for a couple more minutes, only 8 teams haven't played.
Yep.
The Cowboys and Giants will start in probably 4 minutes or so on Sunday Night Football. Then tomorrow night, we'll get to see 2 Monday Night Football games. The first being Saints at Vikings. That one will kick off about 7:10, and then that'll be followed at 10:20. These times are all Eastern. Chargers at Broncos.
By Eastern, you mean right. They're the correct
The correct times,
Okay.
right. Then, of course, the Dolphins and Buccaneers won't play in Week 1 due to the devastating Hurricane Irma, which is sliding up the west coast of Florida as we speak. And hopefully things go okay for people and property in Florida, although I know some has come out already that there's been devastation, destruction, and death.
Yeah, it's
So,
pretty crazy.
And this all just a couple weeks after Harvey in Texas.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of crazy right now with all of those things going on. But it's got to be tough. I know. I think it was the Dolphins owner. Is it
Stephen Ross? Yeah.
Flew families of employees, so players, employees, all that stuff. He flew them to L.A.
And that's where the Dolphins are training for the next week.
Right, to just get away so at least they can be with their families. It's tough we got a glimpse at this a few years ago with the Saints in New Orleans, and obviously that was a terrible situation.
12 years ago, if you could
how crazy
wrap your
is
head
that?
around that.
But it's interesting, not to get too sidetracked, but so many people had to flee New Orleans and didn't really have the means to ever go back. All those people had gone to Houston, and now they had to flee there. I can't imagine going through that once, and to go through that twice for a significant number of people. It's got to be completely just devastating. It's got to be really rough. So, thoughts with those people.
Yeah, definitely thinking about everyone.
But
there's a lot of ways you can help if you are financially able. There's plenty of ways to do that. Check out the Red Cross. They are on the forefront usually. And we've also seen athletes and organizations step up. Primarily, the biggest one has been J.J. Watt, raised, I believe, over $30 million on his own endeavor for flood relief, hurricane relief.
It's pretty cool to see his
Houston.
introduction. I don't know if you saw the clip of his introduction today when he got announced.
I did, yeah. People went kind of crazy.
Yeah, and rightfully so. And it's, yes, they were praising J.J. Watt, but they were also thanking the effort of him and the people who he has just kind of used his awareness to, I don't know, his status, I guess, for lack of a better term, but his status to kind of help make awareness and get people to donate. So,
and
if there's one person, and I'm sure it's more, if there's one person that donated because J.J. Watt sent it out there and made it public, that wouldn't have donated, not because they weren't going to, but just because they wouldn't have necessarily thought of it or didn't know where to or anything like that, and now they did, then it was all for something, so it was awesome.
We always see all the time athletes and sports organizations, celebrities in the news for poor reasons usually. Very few times do you see them celebrated for using their fame and fortune for good. And this is an example of that. It's a great thing that J.J. Watt was able to do to rally teammates, sports stars, and the community at large to rally behind his beloved Houston, where he's been a member of the Texans for 6 years?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So.
And unfortunately for them, their team failed to do much on the field against the Jaguars, which a little surprising.
I can't believe that anyone would have really seen that one coming.
No,
it's a game where the teams have been talked about a lot because of the quarterback situation in Texas, or in Houston, because they drafted a new quarterback, Deshaun Watson, and yet he wasn't named the starter, which everybody was kind of like, what's going on?
Yeah, well,
we'll see how that lasted, right? And then the Jaguars, same thing with the quarterback position. They kind of open it up, and then it seems like it's taken care of. Then all of a sudden, almost in a seems like a management type call. No, we are going to let this guy play because we need to know what we have because we owe him a lot of money.
Right.
And we may be moving on. Anyway, Blake Bortles played. The Jaguars looked pretty good. You know who looked good? Leonard Fournette. He looked good. Yeah.
We have him in a joint league.
Yes,
I have him in the Friends and Family League that I've been running for 13 years now.
Yeah, that's crazy how long that league's been going.
Unfortunately, my uncle had Kareem Hunt, so...
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter in that one?
Didn't.
Yeah. So, Jaguars looked good. Texans did not. Deshaun Watson did end up playing quickly. I think at maybe by the end of the first half, but Tom Savage played like Tom Savage. I saw somebody put out the stat. Tom Savage was drafted in 2014, still has 0 career touchdown passes. Deshaun Watson, drafted in 2017, has a career touchdown pass already. Now, I think he threw at least one pick today. But you know what? That's going to happen. But I'm telling you, it may not have done it here, but by the end of the season, I still am a believer in the Texans. I think it kind of scares me how their defense looked against the Jags today, but I think they'll come around. And I think Deshaun Watson's going to come around, and I think that's going to be better for the season for the Texans. Maybe not in week 1, but come December, I think they're going to be better off with Deshaun Watson than they were with Tom Savage.
Well, I mean, he is a pick quarterback, so did they really expect all that much from a former Panther? So,
by the way, yesterday I was amused that I don't even know his name, but Matt Brown, I think is their quarterback. He transferred
Max Brown, yeah.
So he transferred from USC because he lost the job to Sam Darnold, which He isn't really.
He's a graduate transfer.
Right. So he transferred, and he so when he came in, he threw 2 picks yesterday, but Pitt's only touchdown came when he got knocked out of the game, and then backup quarterback had to come in.
Oh, nice.
So like I did take find it slightly amusing that their starting quarterback did score a touchdown against.
Yeah,
them,
he was a captain on that USC team last year.
Yeah, and got benched after the 3rd game.
I didn't realize. Like, I thought he had transferred before last year. Like, I thought he had to sit out a year.
So he's actually one of those interesting stories.
He
because
graduated from USC.
And I don't
had
know that
eligibility remaining.
I don't know that he did graduate.
I thought you had to.
No, he unenrolled in December, so that you have to be however far removed from, or maybe it was after he lost the starting job. I don't even know. Like, I think he's one of the examples. They're writing about this now. You have to sit out a year or whatever, but like you can unenroll at a certain time, and like I think because he didn't finish the fall semester.
So technically,
maybe
he didn't
go to school. I don't know. I don't know exactly how it works, but there was an article I read just a couple weeks ago about how people are starting to manipulate the transfer rule. Now,
the graduate transfer rule,
right? And the I'm going to stop going to school so that I don't use up my eligibility kind of thing. And you get into this weird dynamic, and it's not really for tonight's show, but into this dynamic of like, well, should it even matter if the kid wants to move schools? Should he be able to just go to another school?
Right.
Especially
like coaches are.
Right, exactly. And new said school will pay the old school because they took. So I don't know. It gets interesting.
So Jaguars Texans was just one of a few, a handful of games that were a bit of surprise, and it happens every year because you have expectations entering the season for all the teams. We did spend 8 weeks going over the previews for each division, and obviously there's going to be surprises for the first month of the year. Then the teams start to settle down. So Jaguars over the Texans 29-7. That was probably one of the surprises that happened this week. And let's round out some of the other surprises today. I'd say Ravens over Bengals 20-0. That was a surprise.
Ravens over Bengals, to me, like, I get if people pick the Bengals over the Ravens. Like, that's not the surprise. I wouldn't be surprised if people pick Ravens over Bengals.
It's how it happened,
yeah. Andy Dalton, who seemingly is playing
half.
for his and his coach's jobs every year the last few years. 4 picks and a fumble, I think he had?
Now, I don't know about the 4th one, but I know 2 of the first 3 were deflected.
Right.
But, the stat line doesn't look great. So, Baltimore 20-0. We saw Jeremy Maclin get a touchdown, a new Raven offensive weapon. Now, 20 points is, it's acceptable.
Right. You feel like 20 points isn't great, but like, and I know this isn't the Ravens defense from 15 years ago. Like, I understand that. But at the same time, generally speaking, when the Ravens score in the 20s, I'm going to like their chances pretty much. I know it's not the same defense. And I know the Bengals aren't the same offense and they play terrible, but to shut out an NFL team, it almost never happens.
It's tough.
And if it does, it's usually one of the god-awful teams. I don't think we expect the Bengals to be that. I don't know that either of us expect the Bengals to be like a Super Bowl contender.
No, but I
year.
had them challenging the Steelers, not the Ravens. Although we had them all pretty close
right,
together.
But like
2, 3, and 4.
So to shut them out in Cincinnati,
right, on the road,
that's a great win for the Ravens. That's a division win on the road. Division wins on the road, week 1. Division wins are always great. On the road is even better because now if you can win your home division games, you're looking at least 4 wins. Now I know that's a huge assumption, but like, you have to protect your home field. If you win your home field, the Ravens, they only have 2 more divisional games on the road.
Right.
So that's a big win week 1, and that shutout definitely caught a lot of people's attention, including mine.
Yeah, week 1 eye opener there, and we're gonna just go to the right one and talk about this. And while the upset wasn't complete, you gotta be happy with the way the Bears played. Now, was it the Falcons because they're on the road playing down to competition? It could have been.
Right.
For a moment, it looked like I was going to be out of the one eliminator pool because the Glennon-led Bears offense just drove down the field in the final minute.
Yeah.
And were knocking on the door to the end zone, and they just couldn't finish the drive and the big comeback. And who's to say after watching kicking today that they would have made the extra point?
Right. Yeah.
But still,
was-
the Bears were very close
was
to
interesting.
upsetting the defending
I've seen
NFC
a lot of
champ.
people say, like, and Glennon actually played fairly well today. And he led him down the field, and one guy had the ball in the end zone and couldn't reel it in. Now, it would have been a spectacular catch, but, it's there. And then there was another one where the guy was at the 1. Now, in my opinion, that was with 12 seconds left, and I don't think they had a timeout left, the Bears. In my opinion, I think he was going to be ruled down in bounds because he was contacted. His back was to the sideline. His knee was on the ground. His foot was not out of bounds yet. He got hit out of bounds. But as soon as he gets touched, he is down in bounds.
Right.
I think the clock's running. The ball's at the 1. I don't know that they get
get
another
to spike
playoff.
it?
And people are like, oh, my gosh, they dropped 2. No, they kind of dropped 1. It would have been a spectacular
The
catch.
third down
Not-
throw shouldn't have been. It was in the traffic. It just
Right.
They didn't have a chance. And fourth down, he gets sacked.
Right. So, I mean, it's tough when you get sacked on fourth down because you think, you got to know they're going to bring some pressure here. They're not going to let you sit back there and drop 8, on the goal line or pretty close to the goal line. You got to, throw it up there. But, it is, it put a scare in the Falcons, I'm sure.
Matt Ryan looked good.
But they're definitely, the Bears looked competitive in this game, which is what they would want to see. Jordan Howard didn't have the yards, but he got a touchdown. And they rushed for 115 yards. So
Yeah, a guy who's going to be
Not
the
115,
darling of
yeah,
everyone's
it's on,
fantasy league, Tariq Cohen.
yeah,
66 yards rushing, 47 yards receiving, a receiving touchdown. He was a guy apparently that if you were outside of Chicago, you never heard of, unless you were deep into the draft, because he was, I think, a 4th-round pick from North Carolina
I don't
A&T.
even know.
But Glennon, 26 of 40, 213 yards. But I said Matt Ryan, 21 of 33, 121 yards. He hit a huge one to Hooper, which I saw live.
Yeah.
And, man, I don't know what was happening
In
on
one
the
of my
coverage
fantasy
there.
teams, I have him on the bench.
Hooper.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And another one I have him starting.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, so that worked.
So that's definitely. Wait, we have him in one of our leagues, or do you have him in?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't.
I can't keep them straight. We've talked about this problem.
I think you're a liar. I think you're making it up.
You're right. I
You're just
of all
lying.
the ones I was going to lie about, Austin Hooper is the one I was
that's
going
the
to lie
one.
about. Yeah.
I sniffed that one out. So let's look at the bottom middle. So I don't think anyone was really expecting much out of the Colts and Rams this year. I think maybe at best the Colts maybe a 500 team at best. Rams lower end of the NFC West. Not to say none of this will happen, but when you get beat 46-9
Yeah.
in the debut of a rookie head coach that is younger than us,
And has taken some criticism already.
before a single game had been
Right.
played, that's a little bit shocking, especially, Chuck Pagano, who's been around a number of years now, and, you talked about Lewis in Cincinnati.
Fired.
Yeah, like 46-9. I mean, that offense. Yeah, Scott Tolzien is the quarterback because Andrew Luck's still out injured with the shoulder surgery that he had in the early off season. But 46-9, I think he threw 2 pick sixes. Like,
He got yanked.
wow.
He got yanked.
For who? I don't even know who their backup quarterback would be.
I don't know.
Oh, I don't want the Colts.
But
I want to see the game recap.
It was bad. It was really bad. If you're a Colts fan, you got to be thinking, and like the reports are, like they don't even really know when Luck's going to be back. Like,
On the positive side, Jared Goff finally looked like a competent quarterback. 306 yards and a touchdown. So he looked pretty good. But yeah, man, not a great day for the Colts by any means. Oh, Jacoby Brissett, who came over from the Patriots and looked good last year in his starter 2 when Brady
I'm going
was.
to go out and think he may be the starter next week.
Yeah, you would think
If Luck's
that's
not
a
back.
possibility.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
There's that Cooper Kupp, who I mentioned in fantasy drafts of
Yeah.
wanting to possibly take, and all he did was get a touchdown and 76 yards. Look, Dante Moncrief, 1 catch, and that was for 50 yards.
Yep.
Hilton, 57 yards, but it just looks like
But he also had a fumble.
Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton, yeah.
Yeah. So,
it's
not looking good for the Indianapolis Colts for sure. So that is how many surprises? That was 4. I said there were 5. We'll skip over Steelers Browns then as a surprise.
Yeah.
But I think it was right there. One for the thumb, that would be it right there.
Yeah.
So we'll go to the Thursday night game. A bit of a shocker in New England. They opened the season. The defending Super Bowl champs always do that. They got off to an electric start. Looked even better as they were going up 14-0. But then that Gronk touchdown got called back. The Chiefs ended up holding. They drove down the field to tie it. Now, the Patriots scored 10 more. It was 17-7, close to halftime until the Chiefs were able to get a late score to make it 17-14 at the half. Both teams looked solid. New England maybe a little bit iffy on defense. Chiefs hanging tough.
Right.
And
but
then,
it's 27-21 after 3, and you're like, the Patriots got them right where they want them.
And then the defense imploded for New England.
Yeah.
Gave up 3 touchdowns, a couple of big plays, including a 74-yard strike to Tyreek Hill.
So, just a bit of irony here. The Patriots, and rightfully so, keep bringing up 28-3, 28-3, 28-3. Well, they were winning this game until they gave up a 28-3 run and lost. Bad. 42-27. Like you said, the fourth quarter. Patriots defense only played 3, I guess, because they gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter.
Patriots offense only played 3 because they didn't score a single point in the fourth quarter.
You're right. The Patriots in general only played 3 quarters, and that is very un-Belichick-like.
Yep.
Very un-Belichick-like. If anything, you'd see that stat line flipped sometimes, for the Patriots, where they wouldn't score in the first or maybe give up a couple points in the first, but then they settle in and they come back and they beat you. You don't see this type of loss for the Patriots a lot, where they're the team that's fairly much the better team for the first part, and then it's just not working. They just disappeared. So it's hard to kind of say how that happened, but that's scary.
I know it's only one game, but I feel like it says more in a positive light for the Chiefs than it does in a negative light for the Patriots.
The Patriots are still going to be the Patriots, and we all know it.
And I've heard this mentioned that maybe this was a good thing for them. They get humbled a little bit. And maybe it's not so much that the team needed the humbling, but maybe the media and some contingents of the fan base needed that.
I've heard some tongue-in-cheek kind of things like that Belichick threw the game because he was already tired of answering the "Are you going to go undefeated?" questions. And so,
yeah.
Now, obviously,
it's nice that we don't have to go through that.
Right. Well, half the teams are still at the top.
Okay.
Say my Eagles don't have a chance?
No, not a chance. I will take that bet every day of the week for a lot of money that the Eagles will not go undefeated. Actually, I'll take that for any team in the NFL. You want to hit me up for a huge sum, straight up.
19-0 versus the field.
Yeah,
right?
19-0 versus the field. I will take that bet. So Chiefs 1-0, Patriots 0-1. I expected Kansas City to be good this year. I had them winning the division, the third best team in the AFC. I had the Patriots at 1, though. I don't think this is it's not the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl moment. It's not the Patriots are terrible moment.
No.
But I do think...
I don't think anybody would be surprised to see this matchup again come January.
No. And I'm sure New England would love that rematch. But now, if they both finish 12-4...
Maybe they have to go to Arrowhead.
Now they might have to go to Arrowhead.
And that's a game changer. Possibly.
Could be.
Because Arrowhead is not an easy place to go play. Now, not that the Patriots can't go. They can go anywhere and win. But, if you're Kansas City, you certainly want to have that game in Kansas City in Arrowhead instead of in New England.
Wasn't it just 3 years ago that Kansas City humiliated New England on a Monday night game or Sunday night game?
Everybody's like opening week. I don't
42,
think it was. It was week.
Or
it was week 2.
Yeah, it was early.
And the Patriots and everybody's like, "This is the end. This is the end of Tom Brady." And then they
all they did was, I think. Well, they've only started 0-1 3 times in the Belichick era. What was it? 0-1, 0-3, and 14, and all they did was win the Super Bowl each time. So obviously, no need to panic in New England. If it becomes a trend over the first month, then maybe we got to think about what's up. A lot of injuries. Danny Amendola went out as well.
Right. Well, yeah, shocker. He's always hurt. And the same thing. the interesting thing was everybody's like, oh, it won't matter that Edelman's not there because they'll just fit in anybody. Well, you saw right away that's not exactly how that's going to work.
And
they scored 27 points.
You got to expect to win with 27
it's
points.
Right. It's not as simple as that. Right. You and I would say that. And it's a little different in the NFL than the other two football teams we generally talk about. I'd say it's a little higher than normal, but you score 27, you need to win the game. They give up 42 points in New England. And Alex Smith threw all over them. Alex Smith threw all over them.
Right. It's crazy to me that when I woke up and saw that score, because I watched the first half and I was like, I know, I've seen this story before. I know what's going to happen. So Alex Smith threw for 368 yards and 4 touchdowns. Brady under 50% completion.
Yeah.
16 of 36 for 267.
And it was interesting. Some people talked about how you could see, like, he was frustrated and he just started, like, throwing it, like, wherever he wanted all the time. Like, they said he kind of, not that he looked rattled, but he looked, like, angry. You know how he gets. And he just, like, they said for the first time in a long time, it looked like you could see it affecting his play, which, I think people are getting a little too into it there. It's one game, it's all that stuff, but his favorite receiver's gone, and a lot of people mentioned Gronk didn't look like himself after the diving touchdown catch that was not.
And he looked a little beat up after that. It
Right.
looked like he was injured.
Which is interesting for a guy that's had how many
injury issues,
back surgeries and all that other stuff. You never know. But
what a debut for rookie Kareem Hunt. The third-round pick gets the job.
How
after
crazy.
Spencer Ware goes down in the preseason.
One fumble in all of his college touches.
First one touch,
carry.
one fumble.
Yeah.
But then he just had 16 more carries and ended up with a total of 148 just rushing yards with a score. And he also was a magician in the backfield, out of the backfield, 5 receptions for nearly 100 yards and 2 more scores. Yeah. So now you have him, Tyreek Hill, Alex Smith, Travis Kelce. If they could just get a big time receiver, someone like Jeremy Maclin or something. Yeah. It's interesting to me that a few years ago, and this was, I think, with Maclin there, they couldn't throw the ball to a wide receiver.
Right.
They just didn't have anyone that was able to do much. But it looks like, I guess Hill's the closest they have to a wide receiver, but he was a college running back. He lined up a lot in the backfield. Obviously, they'll split him out wide as well. And if you count him as a wide receiver, he's a great one. But then Hunt is next. Conley had 2. Kelce, a tight end, had 5. So that's one thing that I think the Chiefs are lacking if they want to become the cream of the crop in the AFC is a big receiving threat that isn't a slash player like Hill.
Right, exactly. So they need somebody out there, that maybe can stretch the field for those guys, because while those guys are great, and I say the short passing game, they had some long touchdown passes, but they weren't all long throws. Some of them were, but you look at it, they have that guy that can kind of push the safeties back. Then all of a sudden, those guys underneath are getting matched up with linebackers, and there's no help for 10 or 15 yards. Oh man, it goes back to the better teams that Andy had in Philadelphia with Brian Westbrook out of the backfield.
Yep.
We've seen this before. He's a good coach. I know people are like, he's never won a Super Bowl. He's maybe the best coach to not have won a Super Bowl right now. I'm not saying like ever, but right now, he might be the best coach that doesn't have one. Oh, and not super thrilled that they get the extra long week because he has got a good record when they have the bye. Now, I know this isn't a bye, but they got the extra rest, and the Eagles go to Kansas City next week. So, lucky Eagles. So.
Now, I mentioned Steelers-Browns. I wasn't going to throw in there in the fascinating 5 group of surprises, but it was very close
so
to the end.
Taking a lot of people out in eliminator pools, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned I almost lost on the Falcons ones because I expected the Bears to be bad and the Falcons to be good. Luckily for me, the Falcons won. This was my other pick.
This was mine, yeah.
Was Browns-Steelers because I have 2 in the same pool. And I almost was out on both of them. Now, there were people out because people foolishly took the Patriots.
I saw someone take the Jets.
In
the one, I'm in one where someone took the Jets. One person.
Now,
one person.
I saw people take the Bills because the Jets are supposed to be awful.
2 people took the Bills in the one I was on.
But
still, that's a risky thing.
The biggest
man.
loss was Patriots-Chiefs.
Yeah.
Which, I get we were expecting the Patriots to be amazing, but the Chiefs,
Yeah.
Like, we expect them to be good. That was a risky take. I think I saw people lose on Texans, Jags.
I saw a lot of people lose there, yep. I saw people lose on Bengals.
I saw...
we might be in different ones, but I saw some people lost
Colts,
the Bengals.
Rams, I think, could have been one.
What were you doing there? Andrew Luck's hurt.
Maybe they made the pick well before.
Yeah.
But I think those were the three. Then there could have been two huge ones, both that I picked. But thankfully, I came out on the right end of that one. So Steelers, put up 21. Antonio Brown looked really good. They did
11 targets, 11 catches.
They did enough. They got to the 21-point threshold. The defense only gave up 18. They just made it close in the fourth quarter.
But if I were to tell you, your touchdowns came on a blocked punt and 2 Jesse James touchdowns.
Yeah.
When everybody was talking about how this is the first time in however long they have Ben, Bell, Bryant, and Brown all available. I think it's only maybe the 11th or 12th time that's happened in like the 3 or 4 years they've been there. You would have expected more from the defense or the offense against the Browns. Now, it's early. They'll be fine because they're the Steelers. And they won the game. They won a divisional game on the road.
Right.
What did I just say earlier? You win a divisional game on the road week 1, that's pretty awesome because you're setting yourself up. You win your home ones, you're looking good. You're already at 4 divisional wins. So the Steelers got to win. I'm sure the offense will get it together. But I think, again, kind of like the New England one here, where I feel like it says more about the Chiefs than it did about the Patriots. I think this one's going to tell me more about the Browns than it does about the Steelers. The Steelers are still going to be the Steelers, like the Patriots are still going to be the Patriots, and they'll be fine. They'll be there right at the top of the division at the end of the year. I'm not saying the Browns are like, oh my gosh, they're going to be 500, but I feel like they're going to be competitive in some games this year.
We said 5 or 6 wins, right?
Right, and I think that's
I think we did
4 or 5. I really
5,
am
6.
trying to not jump too far ahead on this, but
it's just
Deshaun
week.
Kaiser looked competent.
Right.
Like, when was the last time that they had a quarterback back there, someone that they drafted? I know the highlight we just saw, a bad interception.
A Watt brother making a play on defense. What a surprise!
Well, and he had a great day.
He has as many interceptions as his brother now.
But like Kaiser, I think he had 2 touchdowns. I think he passed for 1, ran for 1. I think there's some signs there.
Right,
that
I agree with you.
Right
We've seen much like the Patriots losing to the Chiefs was a surprise just because in the fashion that it happened. If the Steelers lose to the Browns, I'm a little surprised, but we've seen Pittsburgh play down to opponents plenty of times.
Oh my gosh!
They have rough stretches during every regular season. It seems they'll lose 2 or 3 in a row, very similar to the Packers last year, who lost like 4 or 5 in a row. But I think the Steelers will be fine in the long run, and I think Cleveland is better than a lot of people thought they were. And I think they're about what we expected from them. I think I easily could see them winning 5 games, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they only won 2 last year.
Right, exactly. If you more than double your win total, you're heading in the right direction.
If they get to 5 or 6, man, people would be ecstatic, I think.
On a side note, man, some Steelers were giving crazy shots to the head today. Like, I only saw like a few. I was seeing the games in and out, right? And like 2 or 3 separate times, I saw Steelers like straight up helmet to helmet on guys.
They'll be getting fined.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's definitely interesting. Like, we saw the one on the replay there on the touchdown for the Browns.
That's insane.
Yeah, that was the 11th catch. That was pretty much what iced it. Because that was, I think, on a 3rd down.
And that flips field position.
And I don't think the Browns were out of timeouts, so they were able to run it down pretty much then. But, yeah, it's nuts. But, I'm sure that gave some people a scare in survivor pools. It gave Steelers fans, a scare, but... that was a good win for the Steelers because they won on the road. But I think the Browns are headed in the right direction. Crazy stories there, though, because they traded Joe Hayden last week or cut him. They cut him,
and he went to the Steelers.
He went to the Steelers, and when you look at it, it's kind of interesting because he was I don't know. While he underachieved most of his career in Cleveland.
He had 1 or 2 good years,
right.
and then
he
was
had
kind
flashes.
of overrated for the last 3 or so.
Exactly. So, but it's hard to not feel that loss when Antonio Brown has 11 targets and 11
Right.
catches. And also, you look at the flip side, like, there's all kinds of weird things there where, like, the coaching staff didn't want to cut him, and management does anyway.
Right.
You know, like,
management and ownership.
surprise. Ownership in Cleveland is a mess.
You mentioned some helmet-to-helmet hits or big hits from the Steelers. Did you see Le'Veon Bell get laid out?
I
in
did-
the-
I
in
did
the
not.
red zone?
I did not.
Oh,
I
man.
did not.
He got housed by I don't see if his name is listed here. Yeah, Buddy Calhoun. Absolutely trucked him. Came in from the side and nailed him, and it was quite the hit.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's take a look at a couple of these other games here. We talked about those top two. Cardinals-Lions, and hey, Cardiac Cats here again. We
Yeah.
saw Detroit won 8 games last year that they were losing in the fourth quarter. All they did was score 20 points in the first game of this season in the fourth quarter to come back from a deficit against the Arizona Cardinals. I think we're both higher on the Lions this year than Arizona, but, into the fourth quarter, I'm thinking maybe I made a mistake. Doesn't mean the Cardinals are good, but, man, the Lions don't look that great. But they have this fourth quarter magic that they've been able to bring up every time this last 13, 14 months, and they walk away with a 35-23 victory.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford had a good day. It's kind of looking. Obviously, everybody will overreact after week 1, but Carson Palmer looked bad. Right? Matthew Stafford looked good, but Carson Palmer looked bad, and we talked about that last week when we were talking about something, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, when we were talking about some things for the Cardinals. We don't trust him anymore. He's 27 of 48, 269 yards, so volume passing there.
But 3
But
picks.
1 touchdown and 3 interceptions.
David Johnson, only 23 yards on the ground.
And he left the game with an injured wrist.
He came back.
He left with a knee, but then he left with a wrist injury,
okay.
I think. And he
Well, they
left
did
the
say
game.
it's not broken.
Okay.
But he did have 68 receiving yards, so he got, 8 points there in fantasy-wise. But
Right.
he also had a lost fumble, though.
Yeah.
So, not a great debut for David Johnson fans or the Arizona Cardinals. Lions, they were able to get it done. Matthew Stafford, 292 yards, 4 touchdowns. They had two main backs, Amir Abdullah and Washington, only rushed for 52 yards. Golden Tate, great day. Golladay, who I had never heard of until today, had 2 touchdowns and 69 yards receiving. Marvin Jones had a score, and so did Theo Riddick, who only had 1 carry but was active in the blocking and passing game. He caught 6 passes for 27 yards. So
Matt Prater also kicked a 58-yard field goal.
yeah,
To open things up, I think, for the Lions.
So, we saw the Cardinals were out to a lead early. They built up on the lead. When the fourth quarter came about, though, it was all Lions putting up 20 points in the fourth.
Yeah, so I think it could be interesting in the NFC North if the Bears are better than expected. Not saying they're going to be competing for the division title, but if they're a little more competitive and could steal a game here or there, that could be interesting. That's the kind of thing that can flip who wins a division or who gets a wild card and who doesn't. And you look at, we'll have to wait till tomorrow night to see what we get with the Vikings, but the Packers looked good and the Lions look good, so that could be an interesting division.
No, definitely. And I talked about that when I did the NFC North, that I actually picked the Lions to win the division.
I guess, I'm just trying to think. I guess the Rams are in first place all by themselves in the NFC West.
Yeah, Seahawks, 49ers, Cardinals all lost today, which I think until
Raise your hand if you saw that one.
the Cardinals playing, I don't think we talked about any of them. So here's your fourth quarter comeback here. I think Golladay got both of his touchdowns here in the fourth quarter to give the Lions the victory.
Yeah. Man. Matthew Stafford just doing Matthew Stafford things.
Yeah, just
chucking it deep.
continuing from last year. It's crazy what
playing with
been
that big
able to
contract
do.
now, and he certainly through one game. I don't want to say he earned it, but you know what I mean. Like he proved he's the quarterback that
For
the
sure.
future there. While there were some people who had their doubts, that's just kind of crazy talk. Who are you going to get? You're not going to get a quarterback better than Matthew Stafford. So.
A couple snoozers and ones that we don't need to talk about much or show any highlights. Jets at Bills. Bills win 21-12.
Yeah, Jets on the road to force Sam Darnold back for another year at USC.
And then Carolina Panthers at San Francisco 49ers. You mentioned Justin say the Rams are all alone in first place in the NFC West. That's because San Francisco lost, Seattle lost, and we saw the Cardinals lose. Panthers get this one 23-3. Cam Newton looked a little rusty. He barely played in the preseason.
Yeah, he looked like he hadn't thrown a pass since last year, and that's
thankfully
pretty
for
much
them they
the
had a
truth.
bye
Right.
this week, so
Right. Yeah.
they didn't have to worry much about
Christian
it.
McCaffrey did look pretty good. You know, just was able to catch some passes out of the backfield, was able to run the ball with some success. So, you know, that could be huge for them. Also, they were still able to work Jonathan Stewart into the game.
Yep.
That's going to be a crazy 1-2 punch once they get that up to speed with Cam as well.
Definitely. So now let's take a look at an interesting game. It was Green Bay, Seattle, two teams expected to be strong NFC title contenders, and it wasn't a high-scoring game. It wasn't a perfect game, but in Week 1 it's tough to get those. The Packers would eventually come out on top 17-9. We got to see our first ejection of the NFL season when Jeremy Lane got into it with Devontae Adams.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy because Adams started it.
Right.
And they
always get the guy
Right.
who retaliates. Never. I tell my kids, not that we have kids fighting at middle school, but just in general, when someone does something to you, especially if it's physical, don't fight back in an environment that you know you're going to get caught. And there it is, the ejection.
it's crazy because they said he threw a punch. He didn't really throw a punch.
I thought those were viewable because in college they are.
Yeah, and they were tussling. You know, they were fighting. Like, I have no problem with there being a 15-yard penalty. Like, that's probably accurate. I didn't think that at all was deserving of an ejection, but and actually, it's interesting. While I don't always agree with like what they have to say, sometimes you know the refs in the booth kind of analysis, you know, they obviously know it, and they were kind of unanimously ripping the way that play was officiated because they said there should have been more penalties on Green Bay than Seattle. Like it was just interesting. But all that being said, it was actually a big point in the game because it took a touchdown off the board for the Seahawks. So.
And with the way their offense was playing, they needed it.
Yeah,
because
how bad was their offense?
Once again, the offense started so slow, and unfortunately for us, where we have Doug Baldwin in a couple of our fantasy leagues that we do together, we got pretty much nothing from him. You know, Russell Wilson couldn't get anything going. Jimmy Graham didn't have a good day. The receivers didn't have a good day, and their backfield stable couldn't get anything going. The Packers were just all over them from the start, which is disappointing for me because I picked the Seahawks to go pretty far, win that division, I think make it to the Super Bowl, whereas you had Green Bay making it.
Yeah, I have the Packers winning it.
These are our two NFC representatives in the Super Bowl from our preseason predictions, and Justin's pick looks much better than mine.
Yeah, this is one of those, again, where I feel like Seattle will be okay, but I feel like for a long time now we've been thinking, like, oh, they'll snap out of it and look like that team that made it to back-to-back Super Bowls. And we just don't see that anymore. You know, like, they'll be okay. But, you know, this is one that could determine where a playoff game is played. And, again, there's a big difference between playing in January in Green Bay and playing in January in Seattle. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. They still don't have, like Doug Baldwin's there, I know, but they can't get him the ball. They can't run the ball. It'll be interesting to kind of see how that's. You know, I think they rushed for like 50 yards today. When before the game and all off season they talked about how they're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. Well, it's nice and easy to go out and say that until you go out there and you get punched in the mouth and you can't run the ball.
What a beautiful throw from Rodgers to Nelson.
Yeah.
So if their offense is clicking and their defense can get it done the way they did today, Green Bay should be right in there with the best in the NFC, and those Packers-Lions games should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, NFC North looks to be interesting. NFC West may be interesting, but not the same kind of interesting as the North. Yeah.
So I think we have just one or two left to talk about. Yeah, Raiders-Titans. I don't think it was a surprise per se, because I think a lot of people expected the Raiders to be very good. You included. You had them winning the AFC West. I had them as a wild card. They won back-to-back season openers for the first time since 2001 and 2002.
Which means it's time to fire their coach, right? That was generally the trend. Now, I know they've kind of gone away from that. And surprise, that has been part of their ability to rebuild, is some stability in front office and in the coaching staff. So
they were able to get some confidence at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Derek Carr was 22 of 32 for 262 yards and 2 touchdowns. Marshawn Lynch had a very solid debut.
Yep.
No scores in the running game, but he had 76 yards. And their receivers, Crabtree and Cooper, 11 catches, 145 yards, and a score between the two of them. Now, the Titans didn't look awful. Mariota didn't get on the scoreboard via the passing game, but he did do so with his feet. The reliable Delaney Walker had 7 catches, Rashard Matthews 5. You know, they just went up against, I think, a better opponent. I think
Right.
Tennessee is very good, and
Yeah.
we have them winning the AFC South.
And looking at the AFC South, I didn't really see anything today that makes me think they're still not, that I still would go away from that pick. I still think they're going to win it. It's just, you know, I think Oakland, there are plenty of questions about Oakland. Like, can they keep it going? Because I remember when we went through, we talked about how many times they won last year where it easily could have gone the other way.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those this year. And so
Yeah.
if you can get those to go your way, that's really, you know, a great way to start. And so, yeah, I like Mariota, but I can't help but be, I think it's interesting when the Oakland is good, and I know with that team leaving, I kind of want to see them have some success. Not too much, like not at the expense of the teams I root for,
Right.
But it was interesting. So,
All right, the final game to talk about is the game Justin wants to get some comments in. Not that anybody watching is a Washington fan, but I definitely want to get through all the highlights because one at the end I have a lot to say about. So let's get started with the Redskins-Eagles game. And the Eagles did end up coming out. Oh, it's right here. It's the
Yeah.
first one.
yeah.
So if you didn't see it, the Eagles were winning by 5, 22-17, with about 90 seconds to play in the game. Redskins had the ball, hadn't done too much all day, but Kirk Cousins drops back, and I'm going to
And
try
the
to...
ball drops out of his hand before his
and
arm
he
comes
literally
forward.
throws the ball a yard.
No.
When
He
Fletcher
moved
Cox
his arm, but
smacks
the
it
ball wasn't in his
out of
hand
midair.
anymore. You can see it. The ball wasn't in his hand anymore.
Justin's trolling because we've already had this conversation.
Oh my gosh.
He is going back in the throwing motion. Ball is
And
going
ball's out.
forward.
Ball's out.
Hits Brandon Graham
Ball is
a
out.
yard down the field. Fletcher Cox
okay.
picks it up.
So you say that's what happened, but they reviewed it.
And that's the sad thing, though. That's the awful thing. Here, we'll play a little Geico commercial here before we get to some of the other highlights, hopefully. But yeah, they reviewed it, and you and I were texting, and we're just like, yeah, this is obviously going to be overruled. The Eagles are going to have to hold on. So here's a couple of highlights from earlier in the game.
Oh, this was awful.
Wow, solid tackling all
Yeah,
around.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, if that's the best they're going to get on replays, they might as well not even have replays.
Dude, no. They clearly saw it correctly, and there wasn't enough to overturn it. They ruled it a touchdown, and I think it came down to there wasn't enough to overturn it.
It was very obvious in the replay that it was a forward pass.
Agree to disagree.
Oh, man. I know you're just trolling now. I should screenshot the... what is this? Like, why are we getting full highlights? This can't miss play thing. I mean, they're going backwards, too. That's the great part about this. They're going backwards. But we'll get to see one of Wentz's big passes here, a touchdown.
This is
probably
awesome.
to Aguilar, who actually caught it.
He had a great game
Good
today.
catch.
He had a great game today.
So Eagles get the opening game win, something that they needed for this year to get back on the right footing after the rough stretch last year where they went 3 months without a victory.
You know?
But I can't say I'm surprised. Oh, I picked the Eagles to win, so I'm not surprised because I thought Redskins were the weakest team in the NFC East.
Yeah, I wanted the Eagles to win, which is why I picked the Redskins, because I refused.
You got hedge your bets.
Right, yep,
Hedge
exactly.
your bets. So that's the My uncle's chipping in. He says, "I hate to say it, but I agree with Joe. Incomplete pass." No,
No
Uncle
way.
Rich, you agree with both of us because he is just being
surprise!
a troll
The Patriots fan thinks it's an incomplete pass. You know,
right now. It wasn't even the tuck rule, though. I mean, it was literally an incomplete pass.
his
The
hand
ball
was empty.
The
empty
ball was
hand.
a yard away from his hand when it got
Right, the
smacked
ball
into
wasn't in his hand anymore.
Oh my god!
Maybe because he threw it, but I'll take it. Yeah. So I don't know. It was pretty clear to me. So I don't know what you're talking about.
My dad's ripping on you. That was an incomplete. Sounds like a true Eagles fan.
Hey, all I know is
Eagles must have paid the refs. It sounds like a true Eagle comeback.
all I know is the Eagles have 2 straight NFC East wins. I don't know if the
God.
Cowboys can say the same, but
Oh, brother. So we're going to quickly preview the Monday night games, although I think we have a couple comments here. Actually, I didn't pull it up. I should have pulled that up. Too late now. So if you're commenting on Facebook, I apologize. Send us an email before we leave here. We have about 5 minutes before we go. So Giants-Cowboys game's going on right now. Dallas has struggled to put up points settling for field goals, but it's better than the Giants, who have not gotten a single point. Dallas leads 6-0. Odell Beckham is not playing in this game.
right.
Which had a lot of people shuffling their picks in our pool. But despite me picking the Giants to win the division, I actually also took Dallas before Beckham was ruled out because I just don't see them losing to the Giants for a third time in as many seasons. Now, I still think the Giants are going to end up coming out on top at the end, but as of right now...
Yeah, I think over the course of the season, I think the Giants are there. But with Odell out, I was one of those aforementioned people that went through and changed my pick because I thought with him and like basically an entirely new secondary for the Cowboys, I favor the Giants.
Yeah.
Especially because they have some... Shocker, the Cowboys have a bunch of people out on suspensions along the D-line that, maybe the Giants would be able to protect Eli a little bit.
They got
with
Taco, though.
Odell there. So I thought maybe that would give them a chance, but with him out, I think that decreases what Brandon Marshall can do for them. I don't think they'll be able to run it.
My dad says he doesn't want me to accept your pick of the Cowboys because you're not allowed to pick the Cowboys. My uncle also says to me that at least the Dolphins didn't lose this week, which is true.
Well, see, with the Cowboys, it kind of works the opposite of the way I pick with the Eagles. If I pick the Cowboys and they win, at least I picked it. If they lose, sweet, the Cowboys lost. So, I'm probably going to pick them every week just for you, Bill.
And then when they go 15-1,
then I'll hate everything. But
because they're not going 16-0.
as long as that one, when that one is to the Eagles and they lose the division and have to get a wild card at 15-1, I'll be.
Oh my God.
Actually, I guess that would be 2 because they played the Eagles twice. But
14-2.
Yeah.
He's got some emojis for you. Do you want to see them?
I think I know what they are.
They're the thumbs up. That involves
Something
a
like
finger.
that. Yes.
So the Monday night game, Saints at Vikings. I think this is a toss-up, but with it being in Minnesota, I favor the Vikings in this one. But it is interesting to see Adrian Peterson already returning back to Minnesota.
Yeah.
No rest for the weary there. It'll be interesting to see what the Saints have, because I'm not very high on them. Not
Right,
that I'm
I'm
high
not
on the
either.
Vikings, but I think overall the Vikings are a more stable team right now.
Saints, I'm sure, will be able to score. I don't know that they'll be able to keep anyone from scoring. It's kind of the opposite with the Vikings. I think they'll be able to keep some people from scoring, but I don't know that they'll be able to score. So it leads to an interesting Monday night matchup. Like,
Sure.
What's going to happen here? The Saints are generally historically bad defensively. The Vikings usually aren't that bad offensively, but after the first 5 games last year, they kind of really tailed off.
Haven't been great.
What can Dalvin Cook do? I think you and I are both high on Dalvin Cook.
We are very high on Dalvin Cook.
I think even watching him as a college running back, you watch him as a college running back thinking his game translates to the pros. Like there are some you're like, he's a great college running back. He'll be a third down back in the NFL. I don't think anybody really felt that way with Dalvin Cook. He can run with power. He can run with speed. He can catch out of the backfield. All that stuff. That's really important. It'll be interesting to see Adrian Peterson, how much that's played up tomorrow. How much does he get the ball? How many touches does he get? How does that affect Mark Ingram and his flow of the game? Drew Brees and his flow of the game?
And Kamara there as well.
Right.
We've mentioned him.
A lot of people mentioned that
back.
Adrian Peterson may be the best pass blocker of the running backs there. So that could be interesting because in the Saints offense, that's a key, you know.
Right, with Drew Brees.
Right,
back
especially
there.
Drew Brees, who they haven't been able to protect the last couple of years. So, yeah, it'd be an interesting game for sure. And I am a fan of it starting at 7:10 instead of whatever. When we were talking about times earlier, it was interesting. Sometimes in the fall, my sister and brother-in-law will come in from Colorado, or at like Christmas time or whatever, and games are on. Like the Monday night game will come on at like, you know, almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
it seems
it's
till
like
kickoff is
8:38
there
or whatever.
And he's like, "This is killing me," because they're used to it being like 6:38. They're like, "It's great. You come home, you're getting dinner,
Yeah.
you know, from work, and the game's on, you know, and it's over by 9:30,
Yeah.
10 o'clock, and you can go to bed." I'm like, "Yeah, that would be awesome," but that's not how it works for us.
Yeah, I
so.
think Mountain Time would be the best for those late
Right.
games in college and pro because the late games here I don't ever get to watch them.
Right, I used to
Past
love
halftime?
when the Eagles played in prime time. I used to love it because I'm like, "Oh, sweet, you know, it'll be the only game on, like no big deal." Now I'm like, "Oh, man," because I know one of two things is going to happen. I'm either going to stay up and be mad that they lost, or
Because that happens a lot.
I'm going to fall asleep and they'll win. Like, so
Well, look what happened this last week, Thursday night. I watched the first half,
Right.
and I went to bed thinking the
Well,
Patriots
even there,
won. I woke
I-
up the Patriots lost. It was the best thing ever.
I went in to like brush my teeth and stuff because I was like, "Oh, the Chiefs." It didn't look like they were going to do anything with it right before half, so I went and brushed my teeth. I come out and see them like coming out of the end zone. I'm like, "Wait, what happened?" They had scored the touchdown. I'm like, "Oh well." I was like, "At least they'll have that." Not really thinking that was how that was going to go from there.
Then a
so.
game that no one on the East Coast will watch because it kicks off at 10:20.
Yeah. So the opposite of the 7:10 kickoff.
Chargers at Broncos. You know, it's a divisional game. I don't know what to expect from either team. I think Denver's the better team. It's at home, so I'd favor the Broncos in this one. But something just says that Chargers are going to be better this year. They lost a lot of close games last year.
Right.
They were kind of the opposite of the Lions and the Titans.
Yeah.
The Chargers had a
They
lot
lost.
of bad luck.
They lost a lot of games they had no business losing. Last
Right,
year.
yeah. To the Dolphins was one of them, which I'm very happy about. Although they get to try to exact revenge in Miami's first game next week. They go to LA, and that's why Dolphins' friends, family, and the organization is practicing out there all week. They play the Chargers next weekend. So,
Yeah, so I don't know what to expect here. Like you said, the Chargers, a couple years now, we really don't know what to expect. But the Broncos, offensively, have been nothing since Peyton left. I know Peyton was a shell of himself at the end, but they were still capable on offense. And I don't know what to expect out of Trevor Siemian. You know, whereas
Right.
I haven't always been the biggest one, you know, ringing the bell for Phillip Rivers, but you know what? If I got to pick between quarterbacks here, I'm certainly picking Phillip Rivers over Trevor
right.
Siemian.
And sometimes that's what it comes down to.
Right.
There
Right.
not much else to say or do. And if it comes down to a close game that the offense are controlling, I would say you got to give it to Phillip Rivers. And on paper, I'm still favoring Denver because it's at home, but
Right.
would not surprise me at all to see the Chargers win that
That
one.
makes sense.
All right. Any shout-outs or mentions of anything from you?
Not off the top of my head. Big Penn State win yesterday. I know
Yes,
that's
yes.
not the typical route we
For
go
sure.
with the
Yeah.
shout-outs, but
No.
worth stating. I know we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but big one. Time to move on to Georgia Southern.
Georgia State.
It's Georgia State, same thing.
Georgia State Panthers. It's where my sister-in-law got her
Sorry.
doctorate.
I'm sorry, Amy. I didn't-
Master's and doctorate, actually.
Nice.
So, Penn State has their third straight home game. It's a Big Ten primetime game, Big Ten Network primetime, so it's like 7 or 8 o'clock Saturday.
7:30 Big Ten Network.
There you go. We'll have episode 244 in 2 weeks, so that'll be Sunday, September 24th at 8:30 p.m. We'll talk about mostly week 3. We'll touch on week 2. And at that point, you should start to see contenders and pretenders slowly emerging. By the time we get to it a month from now, when we're recapping week 5, then you should really have a good idea.
Yeah.
Although don't tell that to the Vikings from last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure you get more from us at jmnjrradio.com. Be sure to check out our other podcast, The Bulldog Hour, where we talk about Wilson High School football from the West Lawn, PA area, as well as other coverage from Berks County football, Lancaster Lebanon League football, and District 3. We'll be doing that show next week, Sunday, September 17th, live to recap Wilson's game victory over Springford, the game upcoming versus Central Dauphin, and then preview the opening of the Lancaster 11 League Section 1 schedule against Warwick and Lancaster McCaskey. Belated birthday shout out to my wife Kelly, celebrating just a few days ago, and I don't think I have any others off the top of my head that I can think of, although we do want to, tomorrow is a somber day around the nation, so we do want to just extend thought and prayers to everyone that was impacted by 9/11. I can't believe it was 16 years ago.
It's crazy. My senior year of high school.
Yeah, my junior year, I remember
I'll
the
never
event
forget that day.
quite well.
Craziest day of high school.
Yeah.
When I say the word crazy, I don't mean to make light of it. I'm just saying, like,
It's hard to put it
I
into
don't
words.
really know how to describe it. It was the most surreal day of school I've ever had. So
Yeah, it's
I think that would be true for many people's lives. Just
everyone knows where they
That's-
were, what they were doing.
Right, exactly. So,
Especially in the early morning hours, and then as more came out. Of course, I had to, as a football player, I didn't get to go home and talk to anyone. I went right to football practice.
Right.
So I was gone all morning, all day, all afternoon, all evening, until late that night when I finally got home, and it was just crazy. Every year I watch everything that's on, like, history and, like,
Right.
that, and, like, especially Kelly will be like, why do you put yourself through that? Why do you watch the same programs every year? It's fascinating to me.
I find it crazy looking back at how much we know about the events and leading up to events and the time after the events now. And I try to portray it like so to people who ask, 'cause sometimes kids at school ask, and but how we didn't really know anything at the time. Like, and I said, just think about that. All that stuff just happened, and we don't have a clue what actually was happening or what's about to happen. Or as like it just added to the craziness of it all.
Yeah, and every year I'm reminded as we open our middle school football schedules that the kids born now weren't even alive when it happened.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is tough to fathom that it was 16 years ago.
Yeah, that's nuts. So.
All right, well, I think that's it for us this week. Again, we'll be back in 2 weeks to recap weeks 2 and 3 of the NFL season. You can get more from us next week, though, on the Bulldog Hour. All right, so we hope you tune in every other Sunday for our take on sports. Until next time, he's Justin Raffoff. I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J. Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
On Facebook Live.
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J. Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.